Welcome to Thought Leaders Cafe, a platform to talk about widespread challenges and find possible solutions. Today, we'll be talking to Kelly Hart. She is deeply passionate about women's health and wellness, particularly focusing on menopause transitions. Let's dive in. Hey, Kim. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Thought Leaders Cafe.
Hey, thanks for having me, Aruna. I'm really excited.
I'm very excited for today's topic. I saw your profile on LinkedIn and you're a wellness expert. I really wanted to talk about mental health and how do we navigate mental health issues, but you proposed that we'll talk about menopause at workplace. I was like, oh my God, that's an interesting topic. I never thought about it. So I was wondering, why do you think this is an important topic to talk?
Yeah, I mean, women have been going through menopause for the millennium, and really it's an important time to talk about it right now because women are living longer and working longer. And 100 years ago, you'd go into menopause at, 55, 56 and die by 60. And now you're going into menopause on the average age of 51 and you're working for another, probably 15 years. And so you're at the height of your career and really helping women understand how to navigate it, what the symptoms are, that they're not going crazy, that this is normal, that 50% of our population goes through menopause if you were born with ovaries, and 20% of the workforce right now are women going through menopause. So it's a really important topic to normalize, to provide support and education and knowledge for women, and really just help people know that they're not alone and that there's ways to go through menopause. You don't have to do what our mothers and grandmothers did and just suffer through it. We have new science that talks about prescription and non-prescription medication. We've got proof that lifestyle changes and therapy help with menopause symptoms. So really there isn't a need to suffer if you're willing to go find out really what's going on inside of you and how to help yourself. So that's what motivates me. I love when I see sort of light bulbs go off where people are like, oh my God, okay, I'm not crazy. That happens to you too. But really in the workplace, it's women are leading and during this time, and we want to provide the best support for them and education so that they can take care of themselves.
That's a fantastic goal. Women need to understand the symptoms of menopause. That is where I feel the challenge is. Sometimes you think it's just you
Yeah.
rather than the symptoms of menopause. First of all, let's break it down. So, what age the premenopause is and what age the menopause actually starts?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So perimenopause is the point before you hit menopause, and it's usually 7+ years where your hormones are fluctuating all over the place and they're going up and down, which is where the symptoms happen. Your body does not like to have hormone fluctuations. And so traditionally you hear about hot flashes, right? But it also is brain fog, which was debilitating for me. It's insomnia, it's joint aches, muscles and pains, it's headaches. Like there's something like almost 40 symptoms that we've identified.
Oh,
Menopause is the 1 year anniversary of when your menstrual cycle stops. So you get 1 day to really be in menopause. You won't remember what day that was until probably a couple months later, where you're like, oh, wait, it's still not here and it hasn't been here. And post-menopause is every day after that. There are ways to take care of yourself during all of those stages. And once you get into postmenopause, your symptoms may dissipate, some of them, but also the risks to your health without those hormones going through your body are something to really think about and consider. So that's the ages and stages. You started probably, late 30s till mid to late 40s, and menopause usually hits around the average age of 51. That's different for some ethnic groups. That could be different for neurodiverse people, and also, also if you've had a hysterectomy or any kind of surgery or cancer that could force you into menopause right away. But the average age, those are the average ages and stages.
Okay, let's double click on each of these phases. I'm 43 now. I know what changes are going through me, but I do not understand this could be the symptom of premenopause. Can you highlight some of the symptoms so people are aware that if this is happening to them, this is not because of them, it's because of what body is going through.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the hot flashes. I maybe had one or two hot flashes.
Okay.
I had debilitating brain fog, insomnia and lack of sleep, anxiety. Um,
Okay.
Also, they're those traditional sort of uh, when I talk about hot flashes, that's a traditional one. And what's happening is your estrogen is lowering, and that your estrogen is your lubricating, moisturizing hormone. And so you get joint aches because you don't have the lubrication there. You get digestive issues sometimes. You get weird things like metal taste in your mouth.
Hmm.
You could get, frozen shoulder is a very typical perimenopause symptom because, again, your estrogen balance is lowering, and so you're not getting as much lubrication in your shoulders. Yeah, so there's a long list, and I'm happy to include some information in your show notes so that people can see what that list is. But um, there you kind of don't always know that it's menopause related, and most doctors are not really educated in this, and you need to make sure that you ask the questions. And the biggest thing is to track your symptoms and know what's happening when it's happening within your cycle, so that you can go to your doctor and say, look, 3 days after my cycle ends, I have 4 hot flashes a day, and my anxiety and irritability skyrockets during, whatever, to be able to really get a clear picture about what's going on with you. Um,
Hmm.
and if there's some weird thing that's happening, like do a little research to see, like, I taste metal in my mouth. Is that normal? Uh, be able to research. If you go to the internet right now, you probably will be told, many conflicting things because everyone's got information on this. But to be able to fully understand what the symptoms are, and on our website, my company is MiDOViA. We have a Menopause 101 with all the symptoms, the reasons why it's happening, potentially supplements to take, lifestyle changes to make. And so that's a really helpful place to sort of start in terms of looking if any of those symptoms are impacting you, and what you can do about that. And I'll send that for you to include in the show notes.
Oh, that will be fantastic. I can relate to some of the symptoms you mentioned. I do feel anxious. I'm not sleeping well at night. I feel like I'm awake in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. I'm awake. I'm trying to sleep. I try to focus on my breathing and I start counting and I'm counting, So then I stop. It's just the trying to force myself to sleep itself takes some time. And irritability too. I feel that I'm more irritated. I don't know why. If my
Mhm.
daughter is not washing hand and she just jumps onto the food, I'm like, just immediately burst out. Can you just go wash your hand? Can you do that? Can you do this? I feel bad because I don't want to be like this,
I
right?
know.
You want to be able to control emotions and probably put forth your gentle self to your child, but it doesn't happen. I feel it's out of my control, and that's something I'm working on. I'm reading a lot of books. I'm doing breathing exercises. Could be premenopause symptoms. So once we realize this is what is happening to you, what are the steps that we can take? One is therapy, like coming to folks like you talking about it and also getting the supplements and changing the lifestyle. So, can you double click on what is changing lifestyle?
Yeah, sure. And then I want to talk about partnering with your medical professional. Okay, so changing things like cutting back on caffeine and alcohol, eating only clean food, so no processed food, looking at if you're getting enough protein, because women at this age need more protein in order to keep their muscles strong. Because again, one of the symptoms of your estrogen dropping, bringing in mindfulness, it sounds like what you're doing, which is great, but stopping for a minute to take a breath, right? Before I know when those, like, you're getting so anxious about something, that you want to explode, but more mindfulness you do, the more your body's like, okay, I can be calm in this situation. Adding strength training exercise to your routine. I just started a strength training regimen, and it feels so good to take care of myself that way. But that you don't need to run, 10 miles a day and sweat like crazy in this phase, because it upends the cortisol. So what happens is, the reason why you're feeling what you're feeling, likely, and I'm not a doctor, so let's just be really clear about that.
Sure.
But as your estrogen drops, your cortisol rises. And cortisol is what sends your heart into palpitations, which is another symptom. It probably causes headaches. For me, it's like the biggest lump in my stomach, and I'm nervous, and I'm, like, irritable. And so I have to calm and breathe and take a minute and be very present in that moment. So those are some of the key lifestyle changes. I think in terms of sleep, you have to, and I have a pretty solid sleep routine and still suffer some nights, but you start in the morning for the day on your sleep. There's so much science that says get out in the sunshine or outside early in the morning within an hour of waking up for 15 minutes. And I know that sounds crazy. Some days for me, it's only 30 seconds, but it resets your circadian rhythm for the day, right? So you wake up, it's daytime. Here I am right now, and then at nighttime, um, don't do the screens, half an hour to an hour before bedtime. And if you do, make sure that they've got the blue light blocking. Have a routine where, you have a cup of tea or you take a shower or something to just unwind from the day. Um, I recommend, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I recommend magnesium, which is
Okay.
a calming supplement. There's a lot of other things too, but magnesium seems to be the most common thing. And then I do a gratitude journal before I go to bed every night, and I write down the 5 things that I was grateful for that day. And honestly, a lot of the time that's like about my kids, something that went well for them, where I didn't have to worry about them. But it's also sometimes it's I went for a walk in the sun, and
Yeah.
or I ate lunch outside, or some of those things. And then I wear earplugs and an eye cover, and I have my own blanket so I don't get too hot. I'm a little high maintenance in that space, but then you can come kind of unwind, relax, and there's mixed things on whether you get up when you wake up in the middle of the night. I'm a counter too. I count ridiculous all day long. I sometimes I go on my 2.5 mile walk and I count to 100 with my footsteps over and over again just to
Okay.
be present in that moment. But
Yes.
for sleeping, which feels like it should be not hard to do, all of a sudden becomes like, you could get mad at it. And I try really hard to remind myself that not to get mad at it. In terms of other self-care, I would say find a doctor who understands and specializes in menopause so that you can talk to them about the symptoms. They'll ask you questions about yourself that you might be like, "Oh yeah, I do kind of have that happen," because you don't always attribute it to menopause. I love to tell the story that I went to my general practitioner. I said I wanted to talk about menopause. She brought out a book that I already owned, and I'm a menopause expert, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would expect more from that. Well, I found a different doctor.
Oh.
So, don't think that just because you're the current doctor that you have, you might like them, but very few are trained in menopause,
I see.
and they don't know all the signs and symptoms of it. And the Menopause Society has a list of doctors who have extra training in menopause, and you can compare that against your doctors that you can see.
Okay.
The other thing is there's a bunch of virtual clinics right now where you can where they just specialize in menopause. MIDI Health is one that's got great doctors and resources, and um, they have really strong engagement with the menopause space and are really helpful at making sure that your whole person is taken care of. So those are the places that I'd start.
That's a great information. Is when we search for providers, can we search by expertise in menopause and then you can find them, or how do we find them? Because everybody is a general physician, right? You're looking for a
Yeah.
primary care physician, you do your annual checkup, they just check off those annual checkup list, and they don't even call me back to tell me if I'm doing okay. I go to my website, I see myself the value of my blood test or thyroid test and then compare against the normal and just figure it out myself if I'm good or not. Not many doctors really provide insights into your test. They just come, take the test, and then they call you only if you ask or persist. And that'll be one line sentence. You're good. There's no problem,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I don't think any of the doctors discussed menopause with me, premenopause, since I'm in 40s. Um, and of course, there is this breast exam that is also, they don't walk through, they just tell you if you're okay or not. Every year you go through that exam after 40. Other than that, I've never thought about searching for somebody with menopause expertise. So I was looking for an option to do that. Do they call themselves an expert in the search itself, in their profile?
Usually. And and but sometimes. But the best place to look is again is the Menopause Society. I have found a naturopath doctor who specializes in this, and she sat down with me for like, I mean, she's covered by insurance, but not in the same way that a regular doctor would be. But she sat down with me for 40 minutes and went through my blood test and said, this is what this means. This is what this means. We're going to add this supplement in. We're going to do this. Most doctors have, 11 minutes. I don't know the exact number, but some ridiculously short period of time where they can see you. And they don't have time to get to know you and your issues. And so, and the medical system is skewed in a way that doesn't help that. But again, the Menopause Society has a list. You can search for menopause specialists in your area and see what you find. And I know that if you have benefits through your employer, you can look at the list of doctors in your area. And what I would do is take that. It takes some time. So to find the right person, both in terms of searching and in terms of connection. But I would say for you at this stage in life that you are, you need to find your team right now, right?
Okay.
You're going to be going through some stuff and you need to find an OBGYN that's comfortable in that space. I have a physical therapist because I have some joint aches and pains. I've got you know, I've got a good health coach that helps me through some of this stuff. Find your team of doctors and additional folks that can help support you through this. And ask for what you want. And if you know, look, I need to have hormone replacement therapy or menopause therapy. MRT is what it's called. It's an additional estrogen that you would add on through a patch or a pill that helps with manage some of those symptoms. Now, some
Mhm.
people can't take that, and some people don't want to have a prescription that they have to manage. So there's other supplements that you can look at, and your doctor should be able to help you with that are
Mhm.
more natural than some of those additives. I'll say the the patch made a huge difference for me in terms of all of my symptoms,
Mhm.
and I'm a huge fan. But it isn't something that everyone should feel like they have to get, and really want to find a doctor that will partner with you. And I would look at your insurance list. I would search to see if they have any menopause things. I would check in the Menopause Society to see if that doctor's there and sort of triangulate all of those things, which is a pain, but also once you find the perfect match, it's such a relief.
Yeah, yeah. Finding them is the first important thing that we have to do.
Yeah.
Um, we spoke a lot about the premenopause. Now, how do I know that I'm transitioning into menopause, actual menopause phase? Would I know only after 1 year, okay, to stop completely, now I'm done with
Yep.
menopause?
Yep.
Okay,
You're not done
okay,
with it. You're
okay,
postmenopause.
okay, postmenopause starts.
And the reason why I say you're not done with it, you have like your estrogen is lowered, your progesterone is lowered, your cortisol is still high. So you still need to think about food choices and exercise choices. You still need sleep hygiene. You need to get enough vitamin D for your mental health. You need to look after your bones through the strength training because that's what starts happening. Heart issues, um, bone loss, those kinds of things where I say if you have a doctor now that can take you through that process to be able to help you prepare for the other side where the health issues are because of those lack of hormones are something
Mhm.
to look after. And the reason why the symptoms go away in a lot of cases is because the estrogen's no longer going up and down, up and down, up and down. It's now stable. And the body's like, okay, got it. Right?
Okay.
I got it. And hot flashes happen because your hormones are fluctuating. Your brain's like, wait, turn it on. We need to turn it on right now. What are you doing? I need to have stable hormones. And then that's what
Mhm.
fires up your body because your body's trying to respond to that. So that doesn't happen anymore most of the time. And there are ways to manage those symptoms, especially hot flashes, because the majority of women going through menopause will get hot flashes. And
Mhm.
just one thing, when I say women, I want to make sure that I'm really clear. I'm speaking about any person born with ovaries. So there are,
Yeah.
trans folks that still will go through menopause. And that is not, I can't imagine what that might feel like if
Yeah.
you're a man going through hot
Yeah.
flashes in the middle of your meeting.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, this is all true for anyone born with ovaries and thinking about the phases of menopause.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think you need to get a team involves folks like you talking to you and also the doctors who are expert on menopause, and it is also the family because you're always with them 24/7, and when these triggers happen, it's such a simple thing, not washing hand and jumping onto the food. This triggers usually it's just my case. When I'm nice and normal, they're nice to me. When I'm irritated and it comes back multiple times back at me, it just goes on to a cycle of events and
Yep.
arguments because they don't understand what I'm going through, and it just aggravates every single time. And it just feels like I'm alone in this at this point of time. At least until I spoke to you, I did not even know that this is happening to me because of this. I was thinking it's happening to me because I'm getting triggers from my environment, for every single time. You need to have a supporting family. And how do you make them understand that these are the things that are happening to me, and because of that I would expect some support from spouse, especially because child is very little, and they have their own things to do, but it's mostly the spouse. So how do we make sure that they're also aware of what's happening inside my body, and they need to be supportive, just like birth, right? When
Yeah.
child is born, everybody is aware.
Yep.
um, Even they're all into babies or not into mother, that's a different topic altogether. So people know, right? It's physically visible, right? You're definitely going through certain things and physically visible, so you get some support there. But here, nothing is visible. It's just they see a person who's shouting all the time, and they also shout back, and it's just a lot going on. So, do you have programs for couples? Educate both of
Oh,
them.
yeah, it's a good question. No, I don't have programs for couples. I do training in the workplace where we talk about the symptoms and the ways in which to help people through that. What I would say is if a man who has slept next to a woman or lived with a woman going through menopause, perimenopause, they're going through menopause. And understanding, hey, this is what's happening to me right now. I've done some research to understand that I'm entering into perimenopause, and these are some of the symptoms that I have, and I'm trying really hard to manage them. You can see that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, right? Whatever that is. But I really need your support to help me during those times where I'm struggling a little bit. And you know, I've been able to say like all I've talked with all of my friends because I talk about this all day long. So, I use words that people aren't as comfortable using because I talk about it all day long. But when it was first happening, I'm like, I've talked to all my friends, and this is what we're all experiencing, and I'm not making an excuse for it, but I am asking for your love and support as I'm trying to figure out how to manage this. And I know that through some of this research that I've done, that my anxiety and my patience is being tested, and I'm trying to figure out how to manage that. But just know it's not the me that, you know, has been around before. I don't know where this is coming from, and I'm trying to work through it. So I think you have to open up the dialogue of communication. You need to explain sort of that my hormones are wacky all over the place, and that's what happens during this phase. Take some of the conversation you're doing to help support yourself, and then ask for what it is that you need. I think that there's a very freeing, sort of um, powerful experience that happens when you know what's going on, when you know how to manage it, when you're taking care of yourself and you know you're doing the right thing, and that you're learning about who you are even further during this time. I think it is the harder route to take rather than just ignore it and suffer through the symptoms. But at the end of the day, the kind of knowledge and experience and energy that you get from this will help you live the rest of your life like fully. That's really what it is, what I've seen happen.
Wow, that sounds really awesome. Even just to hear that, we want a life where it's just peaceful and
Mhm.
you've lived 40 plus years. It's probably 20 to 30 years more, and still a lot coming. Your child is still growing. They are getting into their own puberty, and they have to be supported. And alongside your menopause, it's a lot going on. So, how much ever you can be prepared for this phase would be awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
so, yeah, we spoke about the medical team, we spoke about therapy, we spoke about the family support. Now, coming to the workplace. So, how can workplace support women who are going through menopause? I don't think we talk about it. There are women in tech. We still talk about technology most of the time. Sometimes well-being, but mostly in terms of yoga and stretchings and all that. But menopause has never been a conversation that at least I've been in. So what do you do? How can the workplace support women going through this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, just first off, acknowledging that it's a thing and that it's happening, and that providing policies and benefits that help women during this time. I think training their managers and their HR teams about what menopause is and what could possibly be some of the side effects and how to help your employees that are going through this time. It's not hard to accommodate someone during this time. If you're getting hot flashes, you might want a fan. In some cases where you have to wear uniforms, you might want to have uniforms that allow for more breathing. You might need to allow someone to come in late if they need to, if they didn't sleep well. You might need to, write down, have your employee write down all the action items so that in case they've got brain fog or, unable to concentrate, that they know what's going on. If I were feeling like menopause is affecting my work, and it did affect my work, but if I felt like it, I would um, see a doctor, understand what's really going on, find your team, and then you don't need to say, "Hey, manager, I've got menopause and here's all the symptoms." But you can say, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm dealing with some health issues that I'd rather not discuss. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna need to have some help with whatever that is, XYZ, like, the whether it's come in late or extended deadline or whatever it is. I'm working really hard to overcome some of these things, but I just wanted to let you know that that I love your support as I'm managing through this. Not like, I'm sick and dying, and not like I have heavy flooding bleeding and I'm not sleeping at night, and I yell at my kid. Like, you don't have to talk about all those personal things because it feels really personal, but you can just say, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I might need some help on some things." Yeah.
Okay. That's a very forward thinking. It's easy to tell the employer, your manager, I'm not feeling well in a
Yeah,
generic term, but I've never been able to say, I have periods and I can't come to office. And
I know,
these days, I'm working remote. It's such a boon and a blessing
for
that you're
sure.
able to stay at home. You can stay hygiene, and you don't have to travel an hour one way each day. Each day. It used to be very challenging for me, especially during period days, sitting next to your own colleagues, and you have your cramps and you want to be using restroom quite often than your normal days. You have to walk out of the meeting rooms. It's so uncomfortable even sitting on that chair for quite a long time. You need to change pads often. I always felt I wish I stayed at home, but before COVID it wasn't taken easily. Work from
Yes.
home is an
Yeah.
exception rather than something that you did once or twice a week. And now I feel remote work has brought in all those challenges down. I'm comfortable at my own space and I can work at a flexible time. Apart from the meeting times, I can always go off video if I'm uncomfortable. I can do some stretches. I can listen in. It's so much comfortable. And yeah, talking about menopause again, uh, do you think it is still there that people can openly talk about menopause and you expect the leadership to understand this is what is going on?
No, there's so much work to do. And normalizing the conversation and educating the workplace. And that's my whole mission right now is how can we help workplaces write policies that support women in menopause? How do we train those people? And then we are in October is World Menopause Month, and
Okay.
we're MiDOViA, my company, is rolling out a menopause friendly membership and certification for employers to get accredited that they are menopause friendly. So the US is dreadfully behind
Mhm.
the UK and Australia, and they have been doing this work there for 7 or 8 years.
Mhm.
We're bringing some of those best practices to the US and hoping that we can continue to talk about it, to change the narrative, and help people be educated and know how to help support their employees. So there's a lot of work still to do, and we're excited about all of those opportunities. There are employers that are totally committed to helping support their employees, but most haven't even thought about it.
Mhm. Some employers might not even know that such resources exist, and I think it's important to bring awareness to even the employers that they can
Yeah.
use such facilities. So if somebody has to reach out to you, so what is the process? Let's say I work with CH Robinson, right? So if my company wants to reach out to you and bring in this policy within the company, so what do they have to do?
Well, send me an email, Kim at MiDOViA, MiDOViA. Let's have a conversation, a 30-minute call about where you are, what you're doing, what kind of policies you have, who's the best person to contact in your organization to talk about this. We've got plenty of materials on the business case for it, the social responsibility case for it. We can create a business case for why you would want to bring this into your organization, and then we'll just talk to those folks that are curious about what's going on. In some companies we are helping them write a policy and rolling out training. In other companies where they're only doing our membership, our menopause friendly membership, which comes with a ton of assets for their employees on menopause and how to support it in the workplace. Another company, we're training their managers and creating a lot of online resources that employees can refer to. So if you feel like this is like it's time for this company to step up into the modern age, shoot me an email and we can have a conversation about it. I love, um, I do a lot of cold calls, so I like it's way more fun to get an entry into the conversation, an introduction. But yeah, there's got to be some purpose and thought around how you want to help support over 20% of your workforce.
Mhm. I'm not sure if an initiative exists already. I'm just talking from my point of view because I
Sure.
don't know if it exists. If it doesn't, then I wanted to know what the process is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of insights. Do you want to add anything more to this that you want the viewers to know?
No, you asked some great questions, and I really, really appreciate that. I think the bottom line is if these are symptoms that you're having, you don't have to suffer. Be prepared to understand what's going on so that you're not surprised when you get there. Gather your team of support from your family to your doctor to, therapist to personal trainer, health coach, whatever it is that you think you need, so that you're well informed and ready. It's not scary. What is scary is not knowing, right?
Yep.
But knowing and then being able to really take care of yourself. We like to call it radical self-care because that's the way you're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you need to meditate for hours a day. It just means you need to take a breath every once in a while. I like to meditate. That's my jam, but it's up to each person. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this today. And let me know of the assets that I mentioned, what you'd like to put in the show notes, and reach out if you have any questions.
Oh, awesome. This has been a wonderful session. A lot of learning for myself and also, anybody who watches this around my age and, even older ones, and also for women at workplace that they can support from their organizations too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
It's
having
been a
me.
wonderful time. Yeah.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.